reflect, yeah, alhamdulillah, inshallah, upon the things that we should not have done in terms of pollution and all this, right? Now, just a reminder, right, as I did yesterday, Shaban will come and go, right? So at the same time, right, Ramadan will also come and go, right? Something in which we have to try and really not waste any time, right? Today, I think it may be the 19th, right? 19th of Shaban, right? So that means there is about perhaps 10, perhaps 11 days more until the Ramadan comes, inshallah. So make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will continue to guide us, yeah, grant us good health, that we make dua Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will allow all of us, yeah, to meet the month of Ramadan. Okay, now while waiting for other sisters to join us, inshallah, I would advise, I mean, as you know, right, most of us, or if not all of us, are on lockdown now, right? I would advise, rather than, you know, spend the Ramadan cleaning the house and all this. I mean, that's what we are doing in this house now. Well, before Ramadan, right, we are spring cleaning the house and all this. So that when Ramadan comes, inshallah, it is just focusing on the important aspect of Ramadan, yeah, which is to worship Allah, reading the Quran, for example, right? You do not want to spend your Ramadan cleaning the house, isn't it true, right? So this is important, right? That we utilize this time before Ramadan, right? Especially when you have a lot of energy now. Clean the house, right? Things that so that it will inshallah, right? You do not need to clean the house so much in a month of Ramadan, right? Because the energy inshallah should be focused on other things, right? Another thing which I need to emphasize is that, especially those of us who have brothers, sisters, or we are, especially people who are mothers and all this, right? Do prepare for Ramadan without the mosque, right? In the sense that I have within this one or two lessons advised the brothers, right, that they should memorize more Quran, especially the brothers would be the imams in the family, right? We advise them to memorize the dua of Qunut, inshallah, so that once come to Witr prayer, they are able to recite the Qunut dua. Okay, for the brothers, we have two separate classes. One is the Tafsir class, which is on Thursday. One after this, about 4 o'clock, is the recitation of the Quran class, right? And for the brothers, as you know, I'm directly in charge, as in I ensure that they are able to try to recite the Quran well and memorize all this, inshallah. And alhamdulillah, most of them are on the process of finishing the Iqra lessons, right? So do advise your family members, I mean, especially those who are mothers and elder sisters and all this in your family, that you should encourage everybody to pray together. Isn't it true, right? I always encourage the brothers, right? Make sure you gather the family members together to pray, even in Fajr prayer, right? Few people to pray is better than one person praying, isn't it true? If one person pray, you only get the reward of one, right? If at least 2 or more people pray in the household, then you get the reward of at least 27 in the hadith, right? So something in which we need to continue to work on it. If you're, well, things happen, isn't it true? Like some of your family members may not be practicing and all this, right? It's up to you to, inshallah, to encourage them to, think about life and all this, right? So this is time for all of us to reflect upon our purpose of life and all this, right? And Ramadan is coming, subhanallah, right? So this is you and I, we should try and remind each other, right, about the importance of worshiping Allah and all this. Okay, now, so let us continue with our, okay, before we continue, right, are there any questions which you would want to ask about yesterday's talk and all this? Anybody? If you have any questions, please just unmute your computer. This is all sisters, as I said, right? There's no brothers, so you can always talk to me directly instead of typing your questions on the side of the Skype. Okay. No questions? Okay. If no questions, we continue, inshallah. We have covered, right, about, for the past few sessions, Al-Fatiha, Al-Baqarah, the importance of Al-Baqarah, right? We have covered the first part of Al-Baqarah, which was the part of the believers, right? Subhanallah, Allah somehow or other, he divided the people into 3 groups, right? No other groups. Either you're a believer, right, or you're a disbeliever, which you're going to go through today, or you are a hypocrite. There are no other groups. We have to understand that Al-Baqarah was revealed in where, sisters? Al-Baqarah was revealed in where? Mecca or Medina?
Brother Hamza, كفاية جاك التكيت على الشاشة
Okay, Al-Baqarah was revealed in Mecca or Medina. Sisters? Anybody can answer me.
Was it Medina?
Yes, it was Medina, wasn't it true? So who are the people? You have to remember, right? In Mecca, they were the Muslims, I'm talking about, right? Surrounded by this group of people. I mean, they were from the Quraysh tribe. Most of them were disbelievers, right? So they were all, or mostly of them, were idol worshippers, right? But when they come to Medina, they come across this group of people, right? In which Allah divided into 2 categories, of course, besides the believers, right? The disbelievers and the hypocrites. Were there any hypocrites in Mecca? Anybody?
Yes, there was one famous one. Is Ubay.
No, in Mecca. My question was.
In Mecca.
Was there any hypocrites in Mecca? The answer should be no. I'm sure there's 1 or 2, but in general, no, right? Because why were people becoming hypocrites? Well, because they were losing their influence, right? Before Prophet Muhammad ﷺ came to Medina, right? As a sister was saying, right? There were different tribes in Medina, right? The tribes of the Aus, right? If I'm not mistaken, the Jewish tribes were 3. I think Qurayza, Banu Qaynuqa, and 1 more, right? So there are a few tribes in Medina, right? So, and before the arrival of Islam and Prophet Muhammad ﷺ in Medina, right? The person that was supposed to be the king of Medina was this person called Abdullah ibn Ubay bin Ubay bin Salul, right? He's supposed to be the king, right? But on the basis that Islam arrived, the Muslims arrived, and then the Islamic State was established in Medina. So he lost his opportunity. I hate to say this, opportunity to become the king, right? But if he did not go with the flow, that means a lot of people were embracing Islam, alhamdulillah, in Medina. If he did not so-called take his shahada, right, and become Muslim, he would lose more influence, right? And he's not the only one. There are a few people who have the same thought, right? So in order to go with the flow and join with the rest of the true believers, right? quite a number of them, right? They somehow or other, they became Muslim, right? But Allah knows in the heart, as you know, everything, right? And that's why they become this group of people called the munafiq, yeah, or the hypocrites. So let's talk about, so we talked last week about the believers. Allah described very clearly, right? And this is quite important for me, right? Allah started the Quran with describing three groups of people. And sisters, right? We need to identify where we belong to, right? Unless you are in the first group, then you'll be in trouble in the hereafter. Isn't it true? Right? So Allah described, and we discussed last week about those people who were the believers, who are the believers, right? Why I said were, because this Quran was the Al-Baqarah was revealed in Medina. So Allah was describing these three groups of people in Medina, right? And these three groups exist all the way until today, isn't it true? And we make dua that Allah make us among this first group, right? In which Allah described for the muttaqun, and we described in great details last week, right? In verse number 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? And in the end, if we are among this group, and only if we are among this group, right? What is the reward? Ulaika ala hudam min rabbihim wa ulaika humul muflihun. Right? They are on the true guidance of their Lord, right? And they will be successful, right? So this describe, inshallah, we make dua among one of them, right? To be among the believers. But it's not just about, okay, to be a believer, you need to have this. Is today in 2020, when we read the Quran, we must ensure, sisters, that we fit into all these criteria. Not just one, not just two, all these criteria. If you want to call ourselves, inshallah, as a muflihun, right, a successful one in the hereafter, then we need to ensure, right, that we fulfill all the criteria, which we described in detail last week, right? Now, any questions from the sisters, right, who are listening about these criteria of believers, right? And as I said, unless you fulfill this criteria, hate to say this, then we might be under the other two categories. And we make dua that we are not among these two categories, especially the category of a munafiq. Subhanallah, right? I think in some sayings, right, only the people with knowledge would feel so secure that you are not among the munafiq, right? There are a few criteria which we were going to go through, inshallah, if we have time today, right? But it is important for you and I to ensure, right, we fulfill all these criteria, right? For example, believing in the ghaib, right? Believe in the unseen. And belief is not just belief, it's iman, it's even in higher category, right? If you turn into surah number Al-Mulk, right? Al-Mulk, surah 67, in which all of us are supposed to memorize, isn't it true? Right, 67. Yeah. In the verse number 12, right? Allah says, Inna alladhina yakhshawna rabbahum bil ghaib lahum maghfiratun wa ajrun kabir. Right? In which those who fear their Lord unseen, right? What is the reward? That will be the forgiveness. There will be forgiveness and a great reward, that is Jannah, right? Because none of us, even Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, has not seen Allah, isn't it true? Right? So we have not seen Allah, but this is important for us to believe in our Rabb, even though we have not seen him. And we discussed last week, right? I don't know whether this class or other class, right? How do we know about this coronavirus? We haven't seen the coronavirus. It's such a small virus, right? But we still believe about this coronavirus and the effects, isn't it true? Right? So same thing as Allah, right? We do not see Allah, but we need to have this in our heart, this iman, this belief, that we have to obey Allah, and we have to be sure that we are not doing things which lead to disobedience to Allah. Okay? Now, So, so these are the criteria of those, coming back to Surah number 2, verse number 2 to 5, the believers in which we discussed last week. Okay, now let's turn to the next two verses. Surah number 2 now, in verses number 6 and 7. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الذين كفروا سواء عليهم أأنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون ختم الله على قلوبهم وعلى سمعهم وعلى أبصارهم غشاوة ولهم عذاب عظيم. Now Allah is describing to you and I, right, about another category of people, right? Verily those who disbelieve, it is the same to them whether you warn them or you do not warn them, they will not believe, right? This is important, right, sisters? That guidance is completely from Allah, right? And this is something in which you and I know, even for us ourselves. We know from authentic hadith, right? Even our hearts, are in between Allah's fingers. He can flip us to the other side. Isn't it true? That is why it's important to make the dua, Ya muqallibal qulub, thabis qalbi ala dinik. Right? Which means, oh, you changes the heart, make my heart firm on your deen. Ya muqallibal qulub, thabis qalbi ala dinik. Now, as my usual thing, right? After this, what is the next dua that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ always say after this dua? Anybody, sisters? What is the dua that he said after this? Sisters, I'm waiting. Okay, good. Which surah is this? I know some of you may put this on a TV or whatever it is. You can just switch on or unmute yourself and say, which surah is this?
It's Ali Imran.
Yes, verse number?
The first 10 ayah. It's among...
It's in verse number 8, isn't it true? Right? 3, verse number 8, right? So this is sometimes the du'as are packed together, right? When he recite the first one, he recite the second one, right? Because it goes hand in hand. Yeah. In Surah number 3, verse number 8, رَبَّنَا لَا تُزِغْ قُلُوبَنَا بَعْدَ إِذْ هَدَيْتَنَا وَهَبْ لَنَا مِن لَدُنْكَ رَحْمَةً إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ الْوَهَّابُ. رَبَّنَا, yeah, our Rabb, right? رَبَّنَا لَا تُزِغْ قُلُوبَنَا, right? Okay? Do not let our hearts deviate from the truth after you have guided us, and grant us your mercy. Truly, you are the restorer. Surah number 3, verse number 8. Now, it is very important, and we have, alhamdulillah, most of us, we may not know family members who are disbelievers, but for those who are reverts and all this, right, we just need to make dua that Allah guide people in the right path. But always remember, it is only Allah who guides, right? If Allah do not guide even us, right, we will be led astray. Okay? Now, what are the different factors that you can think of? Why are people not guided to the truth besides Allah's guidance? We discussed many times in our classes, right? We have shaitan, right? We have our own nafs, who's always disobey Allah. We also have, for example, the arrogance of people, right? That the arrogance means, as we discussed before many times, that, well, you know, many people think that Islam is from the Arab, right? It doesn't apply to them. Secondly, they think that, well, this Arabic language is not even my language, right? Thirdly, they might think that this is 2020. This was so long time ago. They wanted Islam to evolve like the Christianity has, Like, for example, in Christians, there were gay bishops, right? There are female bishops and all this. But subhanallah, right? Islam will not change. The law of Allah will not change. And this is quite important to understand this, right? So if you look, for example, right, in Surah number 17, right, in verse number 77, right, Allah informed us, sunnata man qad arsalna qablaka min rusulina wa la tajidu li sunnatina tahwila. Right, 17, verse number 77. Yeah. This is our sunnah, our rule, our way with the messengers we send before you, and you will not find any alterations in our way. Right, this is quite important, isn't it true? Because as you know from the things that I always asked you, right? Surah number 5, verse number 3. Al-yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum wa atmamtu alaykum ni'mati wa raditu lakum islam dina. Right? In 5, verse number 3, in the last third, Allah informed us in the meaning that this, right, that this day, right, that means, right, after the last sermon of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allah revealed this verse, that day Allah has completed the religion, completed his favors, right, and he has made Islam as our deen, our way of life, right? So this is something in which we have to embrace it, right? It is something in which it is so refreshing that we are not tied up by the things which doesn't concern us in this world, right? We are only tied up with what Allah has ordered us to do, right? Of course, right, when you're living in this country, there must be rules and regulations in the UK and all this. But in general, right, I'm talking about the do's and don'ts and all this. Allah's law is more superior, right? So if we are supposed to pray 5 times a day, right, we have to do it, right? If we are supposed not to eat pork, we shouldn't, or we're not supposed to drink alcohol. There are all these ways in which we have to follow, right? But for the disbelievers, right, this is for them is very difficult to swallow, right, regarding Islam, right? About this, there is Allah first, right? All these rules to follow. But all these, subhanallah, sisters, these are from Allah, right? If He were to guide you and me, we will obey Allah very easily. But He were to misguide us with all these factors we talk about, the attractions of the dunya, with our friends, with who are not practicing, or disbelievers, with our culture who may be away from the truth, then we are tangled up in this mesh in which, unless Allah guides us, we are able to get out of this mess and continue with our path. So imagine you are on a journey, right? There are a lot of obstacles on the way, right? Those who are guided by Allah, yeah, will be the only ones who will be able to continue with the journey. Even though you fall down, even though, you know, in this journey things happen, you fall sick and all this, you still will move forward, inshallah. Isn't it true? Right? And this is very important for you and I to understand this, right? And what better way to seek Allah's guidance, inshallah, right? Besides the prayer, of course, with the Quran, right? Remember last week we talked about ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. This is the book which there is no doubt a guidance for those with taqwa, right? So something in which you and I, we have to understand this. But for the disbelievers, right, is something in which you and I, we have completely no control, except that your job and my job, it is to remind them. Isn't it true, right? That you have to remind them, and it is important to enjoin good and forbid evil. Why? First of all, because if you want success, then we should do this. Yep, وَلْتَكُمْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ وَيَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. In Surah number 3, verse number 104. Yeah, Allah informed us, 3:104, right? Let there be among you a group of people inviting to all that is good, enjoining what is right, and forbidding what is evil, and it is they who are the successful ones. And Allah also labeled us as the best nation, right, in Surah number 3, verse number 110. Kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrijat linnas ta'muruna bil ma'ruf wa tanhauna 'anil munkar, yeah, وَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ. You are the best nations ever raised up for mankind. Why? Because you enjoin good and you forbid evil and you believe in Allah. Right? But if you look in surah number 10, I think, right? Look in surah number 10. In verse number 95, 96. Sorry, 96, 97, right? إِنَّ الَّذِينَ حَقَّتْ عَلَيْهِمْ كَلِمَةُ رَبِّكَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. Truly those against whom the word of anger of your Lord has been justified will not believe. وَلَوْ جَاءَتْهُمْ كُلُّ آيَةٍ حَتَّى يَرَوُا الْعَذَابَ الْأَلِيمَ. Even if every sign should come to them until they see the painful torment, they would not believe. And this, subhanallah, right? Some people are waiting for a sign to come, right? Then they believe, right? But if Allah do not guide any one of them, they will never believe. Okay? Now, and then comes to the next verse, not 98. 98 was talking about Yunus alayhi salam, right? The nations who were saved by Allah. 99 now. Yeah. وَلَوْ شَاءَ رَبُّكَ لَآمَنَ مَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ كُلُّهُمْ جَمِيعًا أَفَأَنْتَ تُكْرِهُ النَّاسَ حَتَّى يَكُونُوا مُؤْمِنِينَ. And had your Lord willed, those on earth would have believed, all of them together. And it's quite important to understand, sisters. Your job and my job is not to guide. We are there to remind. Because had Allah willed, according to this verse, He would have guided everybody. Isn't it true? Now, and Allah was reminding Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so will you then compel mankind until they become believers? Yeah? Are we going to force them? Right? Remember, La ikraha fid din. Right? Which verse is this, sisters? La ikraha fid din. Surah number? La ikraha fid din. Verse number? Yes, after this, after the Ayatul Kursi, is it true? Shall we look at it first? Well, before we come back again to this, right? Surah number 2, verse number 256, sorry. Okay. La ikrah fi din qad tabayyana ar-rushdu minal ghayy fama yakfur bil taghuti wa yu'minna faqad istamsaka bil urwati wuthqa lan fisama laha wallahu sami'un alim. There is no compulsion in the deen of Allah, right? In the religion, where the right path has become distinct from the wrong path. And it's quite important to understand this, right? The right path has been distinct from the wrong path. Whoever disbelieves in Taghut and believes in Allah, then he has grasped the most trustworthy handhold that will never break, and Allah is all hearer and all knower. Right? Those who has grasped this, right? That there's only Allah to be worshipped, not any other celebrities. Taghut means anything that you hold equal with Allah, like your dunya, your work, and all this. Right? We hate to say this. Some people are putting the dunya more important than worshipping Allah. Isn't it true? Right? So do be careful in this, right? But if you believe in Allah and you disbelieve in a taghut, then subhanallah, Allah promised us what? That this will never break. This ability to hold on to Allah, that to believe Him only, to worship Him only, will never break. Okay? Now, so this is important, that in a sense that for the disbelievers, right? I understand, right? Even, of course, Ibrahim a.s. was very sad that he couldn't do da'wah to the father, right? And he's supposed to be the intimate friend of Allah, right? And he was very sad. And he promised his father what? That he would continue to ask Allah to guide and forgive the father. Isn't it true? Now, the question is, did the father eventually become Muslim?
No.
No. So what happened to the father in the end?
Become a hyena, kicked into hellfire.
It is. He will be. And this is, may Allah guide everybody in the right path, and especially your family members, right? And this is important to understand this, right? Now come back again to Surah number 10, verse number 100. And this is very important verse, right? وَمَا كَانَ لِنَفْسٍ أَن تُؤْمِنَ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ وَيَجْعَلُ الرِّجْسَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ لَا يَعْقِلُونَ. It is not for any person to believe except by the will of Allah, right? And He will put the wrath of those who are heedless. Now, I'm not putting anybody under pressure, but Sister Lisa, how come you believe?
For me,
Yes.
there's many layers actually.
Yeah,
I think even on a logical level, I mean, there was so many scientific miracles. For me, that really stood firm for me.
What's
But
that?
for others, it may have been something else completely different. Yeah. But for me, what really solidified my belief was actually seeing the miracles, and the things were already prophesied many years ago, that there simply isn't another explanation to be able to justify all these claims. So I found that to be incredible, the prophecies.
Yeah. So is this the one that spurred you to continue with your journey? Alhamdulillah.
Definitely wasn't the only thing, but it was a big part of it. I think just seeing the high moral standards from Muslims, for me, that was really gave me conviction that this is the truth. I think that if there is a deen, a religion that is supposed to be from Allah, from God, or the Creator, surely the actions of the people would be able to be, very clear in their actions. And for me, the high moral standards is what really blew me away, actually. So.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Now, and not only that, right, sisters, you know that our journey, like the Sister Lisa's journey, doesn't only just stop there, isn't it true? It's always a way to move forward in order to forge this closer relationship with Allah, isn't it true, right? By achieving, inshallah, to that state of the first category, which was a person with taqwa. And this is very important, right? Because our journey, like it or not, you and me, are very different, right? There's a lot of obstacles that we have to go through. There are a lot of things that may impede our journey in the right path, right? And unless we have this taqwa to Allah, that's it. We're finished. Because it is only Allah who will guide us along this straight journey. And we make dua Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue to guide all of us in this straight path, right? Yes, we will fall down. Yes, we will falter. Yes, there will be some doubts and hesitations in all this. But this is the only path that will lead us to Jannah. Isn't it true? Right? So that's why when Allah described us, right, in Surah number 2, verse number 6, right, it is up to Allah. Ultimately, you can blame shaitan, you can blame dunya, you can blame this. But if Allah do not guide anybody, right, none of the people would believe. And this is the ultimate thing, right? That we rely on Allah to guide us. Of course, it's not just about mere dua, oh Allah, guide me to the right path, Rabbana atina fid dunya, and all this, right? Without making the effort, isn't it true? It's all about effort. And you and I know, subhanAllah, the more effort you put, the more you will be in this path of taqwa, which was described in the first few verses of the Quran. Okay? Now, so the verses just now in Surah number 10, verse number 96, 7, 99 and 100 is very important, right, for me to establish, right, it is only with Allah's will that Allah guides, whether He guides a disbeliever to be a believer, or a believer to be more on a straight path, and something in which you and I, we need to continuously to ask Allah to guide us. Subhanallah, this is so important. In the end, right, you and I must make dua to Allah to have a good end, isn't it true? Because ultimately, right, we have examples we discussed yesterday and many in the previous classes, but how people are always on a straight path in the end, right? But subhanallah, they falter at the last bit. And this is something, subhanallah, in which we do not want to happen to us. That is why we ask Allah, Allahumma inni as'alukal husnul khatimah. Yeah? Oh Allah, grant us a good end. And this is so important, right? What other dua that we know to ask Allah to to make us die in the state of Muslim?
12, Yunus.
Verse number?
Is it 101?
Okay, so this is the dua. Okay, let's turn to surah number 12, right? Is it Fatirah Samawati wal Ard? Verse number 101, I think. 101. Yes. Right? Fatirah Samawati wal Ard anta waliyyu fid dunya wal akhirah tawaffani musliman, yeah, wa alhiqni bis salihin. And this is very important, right? Oh, the creator of the heavens, and the earth, you are my wali, right? In the world and in the hereafter, cause me to die as a Muslim and join me with the righteous, right? So, sisters, it's quite important for all of us to make dua, even though, inshallah, right? We